But because modern science is steeped in a kind of materialistic way of thinking, the idea that everything has to involve material and material transfer is very important for a lot of scientists. Of course, in the light of modern physics, it's a very old-fashioned idea. To get a television program from the transmitting station to the receiving set doesn't involve couriers carrying cans of videotape. It goes through as vibrations through a field. And I think that radio and television have broken us out in our everyday thinking from the 19th century materialistic paradigm, because fields and vibratory connections through fields are now the stuff of everyday life. And the idea that all forms of information transfer have to involve material is no longer tenable. But many people's scientific thinking, including that of many scientists, is still locked into a kind of 19th century materialism.
Well, probably because the theory of genetics has been so successful, and it is a theory of material particles. It sounds as though biology has been dragging its feet somewhat behind physics in terms of its acceptance of field theory.
Well, modern neo-Darwinian theory is based on the discoveries of geneticists in the 1910s and following Mendel in the 1850s and 60s. And it's based on old-style atomistic particulate theory. The whole basic way of thinking was formed long before quantum theory came into being. It takes almost no account of modern developments in physics. It takes almost no account of modern cosmology, the idea that the laws of nature could evolve along with the cosmos. It's locked into an earlier form of classical physics. And I think that what I'm suggesting is much more in accordance with the modern spirit of physics, whereas most of biology is still an attempt to reduce the phenomena of life to high school physics, which is essentially classical physics of the 19th century type.
Well, essentially you're attempting to go beyond reductionism,
yes,
it sounds.
I think so.
And what are your expectations for success? In other words, are there experimental strategies which are supporting this point of view, or is it largely theory? Where do you stand with it?
Well, experiments are going on in the realm of morphic resonance, principally in the realm of behaviour at the moment, animal behaviour, human behaviour. But the theory applies to crystals as well as to plants and animals. And chemical tests are some of the most potentially exciting. I'm doing some work on crystal forms and crystal phenomena. The main experiments there in the human realm, so far they've been very encouraging. They suggest that people can learn more quickly what others have already learned. And that's also the area where the theory could be most immediately applied, for example in education.
Well, the theory seems to imply that its own correctness depends largely on its being heard and repeated.
Well, the theory implies that the more it's heard and repeated, the easier it will be for people to get to grasp the theory, to understand it. Yes, that's true.
And so it seems to be.
So it seems to be.
So it seems to be.